the darkness below.
I don't know what this may fall under, but this is one of the strangest experiences that ever happened to me over a year ago. I work a night job at a warehouse, and I would often come home late. Where I work isn't important to the story. It's what I've experienced that stuck with me. I used to live in a country with my fiance's parents. Their home is halfway up a huge hill. While being out in the country, I have to turn off the main highway, taking the last paved road to the base of the hill. Normally, this comes with seeing wildlife run across the road, though tonight, this wasn't the case. No deer, stray cat, not even a usual possum. It was completely deserted. To most, this wouldn't be weird, but to me, it was very strange as I have a sense for the abnormal. My eyes scanned the road ahead, looking at the forest around me, waiting for something to jump out to cause me to slam on my brakes, but nothing happened. As I finally reached the fork in the road, I broke off to the right, taking the dirt road, leading to the house. I felt eyes were on me. It was as if something was waiting for me. This caused me to immediately tense up, as it didn't feel like the usual wildlife was watching me. It felt like something darker. I pressed hard on the pedal. I drove with the last portion of the road, pulling into the usual spot. Without a second, I thought to grab my pocket knife out of the glove box. After opening it quickly, I climbed out of the car and made sure that the blade was visible in the dim light of the front porch. The light only lit 10 feet in front of me. I could barely make out the main road I just drove on. The woods on the other side of the road were pitch black. This immediately drew my attention, as my feelings of being watched felt the strongest in that direction. Making sure my knife was ready, I pointed it at the woods, calmly saying, "I know you're there." As those words left me, I couldn't hear anything. It's like the world went silent, which was the strangest feeling that I've ever felt in my life. This was extremely weird, as there's a waterfall about 500-600 feet away from me that can easily be heard all year round. It stayed like this for about 10 seconds before whatever was watching me took off in the other direction. Suddenly, I can hear rushing water return to my ears. The sound of something retreating quickly faded as I kept my eyes trained on the direction where it was coming from. Once it was gone, I grabbed my things from the car, making sure my knife remained in my free hand, and I made it to the front door. I had no effort to run, because I felt like if I did, it would have been a bad mistake. So I acted like everything was normal and got into the house. I noticed that my fiance's parents' dogs weren't there to greet me like they normally would. I quickly found them in the living room, staring right out of the large bay windows that overlooked the road. It gave a clear line of sight to the very direction I felt being watched moments ago. The rest of the night went uneventful, and I never felt the same presence again. I never told my fiancée the story because at the time, she was sleeping, and I knew she wouldn't believe me because she's not interested in the paranormal like I am. I come from an Apache heritage and grew up on stories from my dad. They were Native American stories of wendigos, skinwalkers, and other spirit creatures. Once again, this story is just the strangest thing to happen to me in a while, but it's not my only encounter with the unknown. I'm from Brownsville, Texas, and one night I was at my girlfriend's house. We were having a normal evening, watching a movie and relaxing in bed at around 9 p.m. Since no one else was home, we were surprised when we heard a robotic-like voice coming from outside the window. I checked, but I didn't see anything. This happened twice. Then we heard noises coming from the kitchen. My girlfriend had cats in the house, so we thought it might be them, and we didn't pay much attention. However, the noises continued, and they were louder the second time. We jokingly checked the living room and kitchen, but found nothing unusual, so we went back to bed. Suddenly, we heard the noises again for the third time, and this time we decided to thoroughly check the entire house. Although we couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. The cats were also missing, as if they were hiding. My girlfriend went back to her room, and I followed her. Before entering the room, I had a strange feeling and decided to look out into the hallway. It was dark, and I couldn't see anything, but suddenly I heard a human whistle. Thinking it was my girlfriend, I smiled and laughed a bit. However, when I looked at her, she seemed genuinely terrified and asked me to close the door. I locked it as she requested. We suspected that someone had entered the house, and I was ready to call 911. However, my girlfriend insisted that we shouldn't. Instead, we decided to run out of the house. I locked the bottom lock of the door from the inside and went straight to the car. I was terrified and shaken, and I wanted to call my dad and ask him to bring a gun, but my girlfriend convinced me not to. Instead, I called my friends and asked them to come with baseball bats. We waited outside to see if anyone would come out of the house, but no one did. I told my friends that we should go inside and confront the burglar with bats they brought. However, when I tried to open the door, I realized it was locked. I remember locking it before leaving, so we decided to go to her mom's job to get the keys. I asked my friends to stay outside and call the police if they saw anyone. When we returned, we positioned ourselves behind the door, ready to open it. I unlocked the bottom lock and turned the knob, but to my surprise and fear, the top lock that required a key was locked, and we didn't have the key when we originally ran out, and this confirmed to me that someone was inside. I unlocked the top lock using the keys we had, and we quickly entered the home, expecting to find someone inside. However, after searching the entire house and checking all of the windows and doors, everything seemed untouched. My friends and I haven't been able to explain this. The top lock, which needed a key, was locked when we returned, even though we didn't have the key. Moreover, we still can't explain the human whistling sound that me and my girlfriend heard. The whistling almost had a mocking tone to it. When her mom got home, we told her what happened, and she told us about an incident that morning. She heard my girl laughing so loud while the TV was on. Her mom was talking to her girlfriend and said Natalie was laughing so loud. I haven't heard her laugh like that in so long. But Natalie wasn't home that morning. She slept over a friend's house. A few months later, my girlfriend's mom was preparing to move out of the house. She was doing some final checks and making sure all of the doors were locked before leaving. The next day, when she went back to the house, she noticed that the back doors were wide open. This seemed strange to her, so she locked the doors again, leaving behind the keys. A few days later, the realtor who had the keys called my girlfriend's mom and asked if she had entered the house. She denied it, explaining that she didn't have the keys anymore. The realtor informed her that the previous day, when they went to check the house, the back doors were wide open, so they closed and locked them. But when they returned, the next day, the doors were wide open once again. Hello, Reddit. I wanted to share my experience that I've had with something rather strange. Only a few people know about this incident, but I feel like I needed to get this out there. So here we go. Before I start, I would like to give you context on the layout of the apartment where I used to live. It was a 3-floor apartment building in which me and my family lived on the second floor. Now, once you get into the apartment, there was a little walkway. You go through the front door, and to the right, there's a closet which couldn't have been any more than 2 feet away from the entrance. You look to your left, and there was another walkway that couldn't have been any more than 4 feet away. You pass the threshold, and immediately you're within the middle of the living room and the dining room. This will all be important later in the story. Now, this was back in the early summer of '96 on a Saturday night. I was 15 at the time, and I was in the living room with my aunt, who was sleeping on the couch, while I was laying down on the chase watching TV. It was 12:38 a.m. I remember the time because while flicking through channels, the time was displayed on the top right side of the screen. It was dark, with the only light emanating from the TV. I just so happened to find something to watch when immediately I felt a sense of dread. I tried to shake it off, but it just stayed in the pit of my stomach. Minutes after, something told me to look into the direction of the small walkway where the entrance of the apartment is. It was almost as if something forced me to look that way. You know how if you were in class and you're just sitting there minding your own business and you feel like eyes are on you? Then you so happen to turn to the direction where the person is staring at you? It was sort of like that. Once I looked, I immediately noticed that there was a tall, dark figure over 6 feet staring at me from the shadows. The man was blacker than the shadows he stood within. And I mean jet black. I did a double take and then squinted under the impression that maybe I was seeing things, but he was standing there, watching me. It was like once he's seen me notice him, he was satisfied and slowly turned around and walked past the entrance to the apartment, going straight through the closet. I remembered while he was walking, he was glitching between steps. I was utterly shocked as well as horrified when I noticed this. My 15-year-old brain couldn't wrap around what I've just witnessed. I sat there, still staring in that direction and trying to process the whole ordeal. I snapped out of it quickly, going to the closet to see if anyone was there, but to my horror, there wasn't. The front door never opened, nor the closet door, which baffled me in utter disbelief. I went to try to wake up my aunt to tell her about the situation that just occurred. My aunt, groggy from being awakened from her deep sleep, said, "T, you watch too many scary movies. It wasn't real. Now go back to sleep." But I assure you that this was absolutely real. The scariest thing of it all is that it almost like I felt time stop. Like an out-of-body experience. I felt like I was stuck in limbo. It was like being present in between two different realities at the same time. I've had other strange things happen to me, but this one, however, was by far the scariest encounter that I've ever had. Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. If you happen to enjoy this content, then please like and share amongst your friends and family. Make sure you comment any suggestions about this page to make it better. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. It's free, and you can change it in the future. Also, make sure that you hit that notification bell so that way you never miss a video. You happen to have story suggestions? Please send it to my email, darknessbelowstories@gmail.com. But until then, you guys stay safe out there. And remember to always be afraid of the dark.